Hey, I'm Dr. Brett, and I'm here with my co-host from the radio show, Open Door with Dr. Brett, Veronica Brion. We're no longer doing the radio show, but occasionally we do these interviews because we find them fun and others find them informative. So, hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good. You got some questions for me?
I always do.
Awesome.
You know I do.
Cool.
Today I really want to talk about presence, because one of the things that we often talked about on the radio show was presence. When we talk about presence, what do you mean? Give it to me. Come on.
Okay. She often asked me this a lot when we were on the radio show. And what I often said was that presence is coming back right here, right now. Instead of being in the past, instead of being in the future, you find a way to get crazy in the now.
All right. And how's that going to help me?
How is it going to help you? It's going to help every aspect of your life. You know, on a health level, you start to feel better when you're in the now because you're doing a lot less worrying. Right, because there is no worry in the now, and worry has no value. Somebody said to me once that worry was like a rocking chair. You go back and forth, but you don't get anywhere. And then I told my younger brother this story about worrying being like a rocking chair, and my younger brother's a psychologist, and he says, not only do you not get anywhere, but you make a lot of noise in the process and you piss people off. So again, when you're in the now, you're not worrying, and when you're not worrying, you tend to feel better. You're more present. You can listen, you're more attentive, and as a result of that, you tend to make better decisions. So on a business level, it has a lot of value.
But what if you can't do that?
Can't do what?
Be present. What about those people out there that try to be present and they look like they're present, they feel like they're present, they sound like they're present,
they don't
but
really,
they're not really present.
Okay, but the more present you are, the more you can realize and know when someone else isn't present. So it doesn't matter if they look like they're present, you can feel they're not present if you're truly present.
How do you bring them back?
How do you bring them back is, well, I'm crazy proactive in life. So when I'm with somebody and they're not here, they're not with me, I tend to bring it up. I tend to say, hey, where are you? I think it's a really good question because a lot of times people are in their heads. They're, fantasizing about someone else, or they're regretting some situation, or they're worrying, or they're just somewhere else. And so what good is life if we're living it and we're with somebody and they're not with us?
Fantasizing.
Okay, come back right here. Come back to the now.
I'm here. So, again, that's awesome. I love your explanation. I think people will understand that explanation about completely being present here. But what else can you tell me about being present? I mean, we read Eckhart Tolle.
Every aspect of life improves when you're more in the now. Every aspect. Because,
how?
What do you mean, how?
That's what people
Okay,
ask.
we're in a business meeting, and if you notice, the more present you are in a business meeting, the more you're going to notice that a lot of people are not present. In other words, someone's speaking and they're writing, they're checking their Blackberries or they're checking their iPhones, but they're not there. As a result of not being there, they're missing things. The more present you are, the less you miss and the more attentive you are. And as a result of that, again, not only can you make better decisions, but you get a really good feel interpersonally for what's going on because you're really there.
All right.
Is that a pretty good argument?
I think that's a pretty good argument.
That's just on a business level. On a personal level, in relationships, when you're really present, people tend to feel more loved. There's nothing like that feeling of someone being totally with you. That's what happens when people first fall in love, and it's really some form of infatuation because at some point a fair amount of people take the relationship for granted. What they're really doing by taking it for granted is they're no longer doing all those little things they did in the beginning to show that they love the person, that they care, that they're attentive, that they really listen.
Wow.
It's amazing when you really listen to somebody.
Why do they not do that though?
Because people in general get lazy and take things for granted. One of the muscles I try to build in life is to not do that in relationships. Because again, if you're taking someone else for granted, whether it's a business partner or you're in your personal life or your children, they're not going to feel as cared about, they're not going to feel as loved, and then the relationship will be less alive. Often you see people where the relationship gets dead after a certain amount of years. Why is that? Nobody's really engaged. And I love to live this thing proactive and engaging.
But, you know, you and I have spoken about this a lot, like
Yeah.
many times, when it comes to people and then taking their relationships for granted. And, you know, talking about those little things. And it's not a dog and pony show, and I'm not using that verbiage. I'm just saying, why do people get lazy? Why do they take people for
Well,
granted?
some of it is a little bit, some of it can be unconscious, right, from our conditioning, from
So
our
that they're
past.
not present.
If your parents, like, didn't have a really close, intimate relationship, you might never have really learned how, right? If you don't have any modeling in your background, then maybe part of it is you didn't learn how. There's some people that get lazy because they get distracted. There's so many distractions in life. There's video games, right? There's TV, there's internet, porn, addictions, and on and on and on. And if you're not careful, you can get caught up and move away from what's really meaningful in life. And what to me is most meaningful is the relationships around us, the people that we care about, the people that we love. I value that a lot.
So it's really important to continue to do those little things instead of, you know.
And to mix it up.
Yeah,
Like to do things differently a little bit, right? To be a little bit spontaneous, that kind of stuff.
Oh my God, spontaneity! That makes
You know that makes it a lot of fun.
I know it does make it a lot of
Right,
fun.
to do
But
something different, right? To go away occasionally to a bed and breakfast, right? If you've been in a relationship for a long time, do something different. A lot of people stay stuck in the same routines, and the more they're in the same routines, the more bored they get, and then the more prone to addiction as a result of that.
Well, it's addiction, it's boredom, it's what some people call exploring other relationships.
I'm not judgmental about that. What I'm saying is that, you know, if you want to have a really cool life, then you've got to really invest in that life. By investing in yourself and learning to be more present and more mindful, and investing in others by really listening and caring and being attentive. All these things matter a lot.
And what happens to the people that have lived that life where they were attentive, where they were very proactive, where, you know, they've had all of these relationships, and then they get to that one relationship that's supposed to really be the relationship, and then they're just tired, they're just beat up. How do they
Well, you're
bring
not
it back?
as tired and as beat up if you're proactive along the way. What gets people really tired and burnt out is they're not taking care of themselves, and they're not honoring themselves for months and years. And the more you stay stuck, or the more you stay in an abusive relationship or in a situation that's unhealthy or not good, then the worse you're going to feel over time. So again, what we're asking people to do is communicate more, get more proactive, make tough decisions, and make changes along the way so that you're not getting stuck or burnt out.
And then you're more present.
And more engaging and creative and kind and loving and fun.
But do you have to take... Yes, I know that.
Awesome.
When you're but and you know, just to close this up a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
So in order to not get so tired, and in order to be a better present individual in a relationship, in any relationship, business, personal, yada yada yada, do you feel you need to take a break after being abused to kind of settle
Well, you know,
into
I have this client right now who is married to an alcoholic, and she knows at some point she's going to leave her husband because he just isn't going to leave the alcohol. In other words, he's not going to give it up. There's been a lot of evidence of that. She's gone to Al-Anon groups. And one of the things she said to me the other day is she wants to change her career first, because if she changes her relationship right now, she's just going to attract another guy that's like her husband, because she hasn't changed herself. So in other words, she's got some really introverted qualities and things about her that she wants to change. And as a result of that, she knows that if she doesn't make these changes, her external environment is going to reflect that. So a lot of times what we're doing is we're finding that balance between the internal and the external. Sometimes we try to change our external, and that's good, but a lot of times we need to change internally as well, and this way we can attract differently externally, if that makes sense.
Makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to everybody else.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.